There's two ways to read this. One is that we are maybe facing imminent action against Iran of some nature that could escalate tensions in the region. And the other is that the president has de-escalated those tensions, depending now on if we pursue any further action.
Sure. Look, this appeared to be a president yesterday who was trying to de-escalate, as he said in the Oval Office, that he sort of ruminated and said, well, maybe this was just a mistake. You know, he said, I believe that it could have been just an Iranian general who went rogue, who didn't have authorization to do this strike, and therefore this whole thing could be a big mistake. The president seeming to offer the Iranians an off-ramp here to the tension, and then today again, by calling off that airstrike last night and then explaining today that it was because of fear of killing 150 Iranian soldiers or civilians, that he said ultimately that's why he backed off. Also, Kelly, I should say that the president said in his series of tweets that the United States put in new sanctions on Iran last night. We've been working with the White House and Treasury Department and others to try to identify what those sanctions are. So far, no details or information from the White House as to what the president is talking about in his tweet in terms of new sanctions on Iran last night.
Sure, and how they might respond to that. All right, Eamon, thanks. Amanda, what are you hearing on the Pentagon side of this, as so much of this involved the president negotiating with his generals?
Kelly, and I would also add that there's a lot of acting titles within the Trump administration, but I've never quite seen a vacuum in leadership at the Pentagon. As you know, Secretary Shanahan is resigning, and he is handing the keys over, so to speak, to Acting Secretary Mark Esper. That happens this Sunday, and then Esper's off to NATO on Tuesday. So when I talked to sources in the Pentagon about what this potential strike could have looked like in Iran, they gave me a lot of guidance that it might have looked a little bit similar to the strikes in Syria last year. A lot of naval assets were in place to avoid some air defense systems. The Tomahawk is usually the weapon of choice in this instance. They're about 1.4 million apiece, and those are made by Raytheon, and a lot of surveillance aircraft that were headed to the region to make sure prior to the strike and after the strike that any U.S. assets or any vulnerable allies would not be harmed in the wake of such a strike.